While the Lotus 79 series is used to handling the great, wide-open circuits of the past, today finds them on the tight and twisting confines of one of the newer circuits on the iRacing service, Detroit Belle Isle. Will the drivers be able to handle this modern street circuit, or will the foreboding walls catch out more than a few drivers? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 9 of the Lotus 79 Grand Prix series, and you'll see it all here live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm DJ Clark, and with me in the booth is Ashin Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Detroit is tricky at the best of times, but it'll be a real handful in these Lotuses. Let's head over to our track guide to see just what our drivers have in store.
Welcome to the Belle Isle Street Circuit. Situated in a beautiful park on Belle Isle itself, it rests in the Detroit River, sandwiched between the Motor City and Canada. With it being in the far north of the Midwestern United States, as you'd expect, harsh winters make this a bone-jarringly bumpy track. It's most known for IndyCar's yearly visit, but has also seen IMSA hold rounds here lately. The 14 narrow corners only add up to a mere 2.3 miles in length, but it can tend to feel like a lot more just from the sheer stress of keeping your car out of the walls. Runoff is non-existent in the majority of corners, so mistakes tend to be punished with race-ending damage. The dangers include the tight and twisty fountain section with its rapid-fire set of bends, and the frightening turns 12 and 13, which end the lap with two swift kinks. However, the most notorious spot on the track is the exit of Turn 2, made famous by collecting the Corvette pace car into its hungry walls one year. The first two turns are a quick chicane, so the extreme change of direction, plus the rise in the track as it crosses over a creek, means grip and balance can disappear in an instant. While the setup of the car can sometimes help lessen the annoyance of the bumps a little, what this place all comes down to is driver skill and daring. Precision will pay off with the close proximity of the barriers. While it isn't a stroll in the park for drivers, fans get to enjoy the beauty of the scenery, all while watching some of the most thrilling racing an American street course has to offer.
Well, Ozzy, the Lotus has never raced on this track in particular, but how do you think they're going to be able to handle this street circuit?
With great care and tremendous danger, DJ. I think that's the right answer for that one. It's a street circuit, and anyone who knows me knows how much I love street circuits. You got concrete walls all over the place. You got constant danger, the bumpy nature of the track. Mind you, these are ground effect cars, and it's a bumpy track, so you really have to have that ground clearance. And at the same time, you can't use the usual sources of downforce, so you have to find it elsewhere. And it's a very tricky challenge. It's not just 90-degree corners either. You got some fast-flowing corners. So it's going to be a real challenge of concentration, most of all, for these drivers around this 3.8-kilometer track.
It is going to be a good one to watch for sure. And as we start to close in a little bit on the end of the championship, let's go ahead and check out our championship standings. So you can see there, Gano Frisha holding a pretty significant lead over Severi Seppa and Michael Turk, but that battle for P2 really starting to shape up there with only 7 points separating them. Alex Millward's been on a pretty good run of late and has been able to close down a little bit, but 23 points here in the last couple of races is going to be a hard gap for him to close in. And Ove Trangarade also looking in pretty close to Millward there to try to take over that fourth place position. We also have a teams championship in this series. Ozzy, how's that looking?
Whoa, it's looking very interesting. Abelard Williams racing with Michael de Turk and Daniel Banker with 208 points, leading out by just 5 points ahead of the Arrows Racing team. Then you got Renault, the Frenchies. They are as well very close to the lead. So is the Parmalat Racing team, also known as Brabham. They're in fourth place, 16 points behind the leaders. And then you got Lotus, Team Essex Lotus. They're in fifth place, they're a little bit further away, but the top four, they're still bunched together, and even if we're on week number 10, anything can still happen.
It most certainly can, and especially at a track like this. But before we get to the action of qualifying, we'll run you through those race details. We are on round 10 of 12, so this and 2 more races left to go in this season. It'll be a 33-lap race out here, and we do not have a split, so it'll be 32 starters out on the track. It is an open setup for this series, but drivers are always pretty good about sharing their knowledge with some newcomers in, and there are some incident points out there. Penalties for those. 17 will get you a drive-through, and 25 incidents will get you a full disqualification. But at a track like this, Ozzy, I gotta think that if you pick up more than maybe, let's say, 3 or 4 incidents, you're gonna be in the wall and out of the race, not necessarily going through pit lane.
Yeah, even one incident can be tragic here at Detroit, and usually it's so easy to damage the car. And here we are jumping on board with Severi Seppä. You mentioned just now how drivers are good with sharing their setups. Severi is the one who's picking up from in that tradition. Not only does he post setups on the forums in each and every week, go check out the Classic Lotus Grand Prix section under road racing in the new iRacing forums, but he also posts a hot lap. So we got an on-board lap from Severi Seppä out there on the forums. Go check it out because it's really fascinating stuff, and he is one fast driver who has truly found his form during this year. Let's see if he will be the one to challenge Geraint today.
It will be good to see. As you can see there, they're qualifying underway as of now. Michael de Turk currently sitting on the top by just over a tenth of a second, but Timo Karjalainen popping his way to the top of the sheets right there by just over a tenth of a second over de Turk. So definitely some good times getting set here. Here comes Frisha coming in to set his fastest time as Partanen sets the third best time.
Yeah, and Gernot is still on his out lap, so he left this really late. And Severi Seppä out there on the track as well. Timo on the pole position, on the provisional pole position. That shouldn't be too much of a surprise. He's been really fast throughout this season. He qualified for the Finnish SimRacing Championship finals this year, and he's been really finding his form with the Lotus 79 as well. But here is Severi with a 118.9, so he's only in 6th place. Eugenio Massa here, one of the higher number of drivers here in the broadcast split, courtesy of it not splitting, but it's going to be very interesting to see how he does. The name does ring a bell, and not just because of Felipe Massa. I think he is a better driver than his iRating would tell you, and he's been there in the past as well, but this is the man we want to watch, the multi-time champion. Der Lotte kan flyger, Gernot Fritsch.
As he pilots his way here down into the fountain section of Detroit Belle Isle. This is one of the trickiest sections on the track, specifically this run of corners here, 9, 10, and 11. You've got to really bleed off speed while moving that steering wheel and putting inputs in. You've got to be very careful on the brakes. And then coming into this last sweeper section, these are some of the faster corners on the track. You want to keep as much speed going as possible.
Yeah, that's the thing you have to do, and the launch onto that main straight is so important, and it's so difficult to get right. His first lap 118.9, that's not super fast yet, but mind you, these cars are faster on the second lap. Severi Seppä 118.8, not able to improve too much, but still climbs 2 positions, currently on provisional 5th place. And Barry West here, well, he is just having a test out lap. I think looking at the current lap time, he's not at his best form, and we see a big slide from him and cut away to Gernot Fritsch, but perhaps for the better. And this is gonna be it, DJ. This is gonna be Gernot Fritsch. Will he be on the pole position, or will it be Timo Karjalainen?
Well, we'll have to see what he can do. The one thing that we do talk about quite a lot, though, is how the cars feel in over the course of a race, whether or not maybe Frischa's going to have a race setup that'll come to him later on. The passing, I think, is going to be at a pretty big premium here as we continue to watch Frischa working his way around that tricky fountain section. We've seen passes into 3 and into 7, but outside of that, and even with that, you've really got to make sure that you get absolutely everything right. Here comes Gernot, though, working his way around those final corners. A little bit of a tail slide coming out of that final corner. Works his way now onto the main straight. Is this going to be good enough? It's an 18.2. That'll put him in 3rd.
Wow, so he got onto the inside line in the start. He got a decent qualifying, but it's not quite what he was after. It's not quite what we're used to seeing from him, but that's not perhaps Gernot's greatest strength anymore. It is his race pace, but still a decent qualifying from Gernot, and he was able to avoid the mistakes that so many drivers fell to. More on that later.
For sure. Watching Francisco Javier Lopez now as he pilots his way out of that turn 6. One of the more crucial corners on the track as you want to get good speed coming out of there. Depending on your setup, probably about a second or third gear corner, but we're keeping an eye on the clock here because we are about to tick over. Lopez not going to get that time in. So let's go to your starting grid. On pole, it is going to be Timo Karjalainen, followed by Michael de Turk. Gernot Frisch is going to line up on the inside of row 2, followed by Ove Trangarade and Mikko Lino in 5th. Severi Seppa will be back in 6th, followed by Partanen in 7th. And Phil Lake, coming over from the Camel Series, will start off in 8th. That's a great start for him. Jukka Tolvanen will be 9th, and Sebastian Morin will round out your top 10.
And on 11th place, it is Alex Milward, suffering suspension damage in the qualifying, still able to set in a time, not one he's happy with. Timothy Reed starting 12th, then it's Borja Valero and Aitor Sintes Galindo. Andrew Thomas starting 15th, Pablo Suarez 16th, then it's Luak Barber, Barry West, Cristiano Coraini, and Keith Herner rounding out your top 20.
In 21st, it's John Tackberry, followed by Miguel Moreland, with Robert Plumley and Robert Simpkins making up row 12. In row 13, it's Thomas Delmuth, followed by Bill Krause and Joshua Justice and Michael Steiner lining up behind them. Itsu Vakanagas is going to be 29th, followed by Eugenio Massa. Both of those drivers unable to set a time. And then rounding out the back of your field, it's Stephen Orrell and Francisco Javier Lopez. As we get ready to go here, waiting for the last couple of drivers to make their way out onto the grid. I believe we're just waiting for Gernot Frisch and Michael Steiner as of right now. Track temperature out there, it's 42 degrees on the circuit. That's going to make things interesting. And there comes Gernot coming in, and now here we go. Engines start to harmonize, and we are ready to go racing here at Detroit. There's the lights. Big puff of smoke in the back as the drivers get off and on their way. Oh, challenging right from the top. It's from de Turk, but Karjalainen able to hold him off. It's a good run in the back there as everybody starts to make their way forward. Pushing ahead, Karjalainen continues to hold off. De Turk now making a move into second place as they go down into the braking zone.
Very interesting start and very clean so far as well. Don't want to jinx anything. A bit of contact in the back, but otherwise we are mostly clean through, especially the leaders. Philip Lake had a bad start. He lost a lot of positions. Timo Karjalainen, however, he did exactly what's necessary. And Gernot Frisch, he was unable to get past the Turk in the race start, which is something I expected him to do, honestly. I expected him to get past Michael. That didn't happen, so Gernot is gonna have an uphill battle ahead of him if he wants to keep up with the leading duo.
He is indeed. We had a big coming together in the back, a couple of cars upside down. We'll see if we have a moment to check that out later. But up front, it is, as you see it there, Karjalainen continuing to lead, de Turk closing in as they make their way out of the fountain section. It looked like it was a pretty decent run there for Frisch. I thought he may have had a little bit of a go, but nothing doing as of yet. Karjalainen starting to pull a little bit of a gap here, up to about 0.7 of a second as they make their way across the line for lap 1.
And that's very crucial because you get the draft from around, the slipstream from around 0.6 of a second with these cars. And with not many opportunities to overtake, you want to pull the gap right away. And you want to put those guys behind you, especially with the heavy fuel load. Early on, the car's gonna understeer. You're really struggling if you are in that turbulent, dirty air, which is reaching up to about 1 second away. It's not too much with these cars because so much of the aero comes from the underbody, but it's still gonna have an effect. And drivers behind Timo have to now wrestle their cars through and try to keep it consistent. This is lap number 2. You're starting to get some heat into the tires, but it's still gonna be heavy, and it's so easy to make mistakes in the early part of this race.
It is indeed. We're keeping our eyes focused here. This is 8th place Ove Trangarade. Alex Millward trying to close in on the back of him. You can also see that battle in the back between Moran and Lake as they make their way down into the braking zone for the fountain section. Looks like Millward was able to close in a little bit there under braking. Let's see how Ove and Phil are able to handle coming out of this corner. Ooh, little bit of a wiggle there for Alex Millward as he's able to keep the car together and keep it going now through turns 12 and 13. Checking back in on your leaders, though. This is Karjalainen, De Turk, and Freesia. De Turk not letting Karjalainen really pull that gap as much as I think Timo would like him to.
No, not yet, and he's doing a great job of keeping up so far. But it's so easy to push just a little bit too hard, and finding that balance between pushing hard early on and getting that gap or trying to hold on to somebody and pushing a little bit too much is very, very difficult. You might think it's a long race, but you can see drivers are starting to get away in some aspects if you are too careful early on. And meanwhile, Gernot is just back there watching and learning and seeing how these guys are doing. He's such a great driver over the race stint. Let's see about the top speeds. Karjalainen under the bridge, he was 241. De Turk in the slipstream, 249. And Gernot Fritzsche was around 243. That's kilometers per hour for you. So I'm thinking De Turk, even if he might have had a little bit of slipstream, he has the least wing out of these three, and that means he might just get those overtaking opportunities getting a little bit closer. Speaking of them, I think we are on board with Partanen.
We are indeed. The Finn here riding in 6th place, trying to close in on Severi Seppa ahead of him. They've been able to gap a little bit, build up a little bit of a gap to Jukka Tolonen behind them in 7th. It's holding it about a second right now as Karjalainen again sets the fastest lap of the race, so really trying to pull away as much as possible. As Trangrade then goes ahead and takes that away back from 8th place. Here is 3rd place Gernot Friesche. As you said, Ozzy, he's just sitting back here, I think, letting everything come to him. We've seen Gernot do this quite a few times, that he just likes to sort of let the race come to him, be fine taking away the points that he can, and really put the pressure on when he needs to. Jumping back again here, though, this is a nice little battle. This is Sebastian Morin and Phil Lake. This is the battle for P10.
Yeah, and Philip Lake having a little bit of messy start. He started in 8th place, dropped back to 11th, trying to get past Morin. He's a long-time veteran in this series as well. He knows how to drive, and here we go. Looking to the inside, into 7. Can he pull it off? Yes, he can. Morin unable to fight that off, realizing a little bit too late that Philip Lake is indeed there, and a good job by Philip taking that position.
Yeah, we've really seen Phil come alive here in this season. You know, he's more known for running a little bit in that Camel GT series, as I mentioned during the qualifying readout, but he's really come alive in these old school Lotus tracks. But Ozzy, one of the trickiest things about here is you can really see it there as they get up to speed, is the bumps of this circuit. And while the drivers don't have to deal with the actual physical bumps as they would in real life, it still makes life incredibly difficult, especially in these ground effects Lotuses.
Yeah, these cars are running so very low, and you got those skirts on the side of the car, which he hold the Venturi tunnels underneath them, and it's just a very stiff chassis is what it is. It's not as stiff as it could be, but it's still a very stiff chassis, so it's not gonna give in very much. And then when you combine that with the adjustments you can make in the car, adjustments you can make into the shocks, the dampers, it's not very much you can do, so you just have to run it a little bit softer than you used, and that's gonna mess up the handling of the car. And then you get these bumps, and the car's just gonna wanna jump over them, essentially. And you can see, especially turning here into turn number 10, or was it 11? I can't remember. Partanen having to really wrestle it in there, and they're struggling with getting the power down. They're struggling with getting the right turn in, and when you go in a little bit too fast, there's suddenly nothing you can do because there's no leeway. There is no safe zone. When you hit a bump a little bit too hard on the entry of the corner, you're gonna slide wide, and then when you're gonna slide wide, you're in the concrete wall. And I tell you what, Lotus 79s, they are surprisingly strong cars, but Lotus 79 versus a concrete wall, the concrete wall's gonna win it. And I think we saw one driver actually trying that theory out on the background coming out of turn number 2, and I think that was Uwe Trangeride.
It was indeed, and Trangeride now under pressure from Alex Millward. Millward to the inside, going down into turn 4, and Millward has got that done. Trangeride finds himself dropping back to P9. Not sure if there's going to be suspension or under tray damage to that car for Trangrade, but definitely lost some time. Keeping an eye on the straight line speed. He definitely does have some front wing damage. You can see it there. That right front turned down ever so slightly. Looks like he was able to keep up with Millward ahead of him in the draft. Let's keep an eye on his hands here. See how much he's really fighting the car. That may give us a little bit of an indicator of just what it is. So we ride on the helmet cam with Ove. A lot of fights coming around that turn 11, as you were talking about, Ozzy. Such a tricky corner.
It is, and so far it's looking pretty normal. When you get wing damage, front wing damage with the Lotus 79, it mostly affects the top speed because it's gonna, when that wing is turned like that, it's gonna add drag and it's gonna reduce some downforce, but mostly you get some added drag. And the car looks pretty normal otherwise. I don't think there is too much suspension damage. It's a little bit understeer in the fast corner, and you can see him turning ever so slightly to the left on a straight line. So maybe there's just a little bit of suspension damage, but so far so good for Uwe Trangrade. And he is a driver with masterful car control, the Norwegian. He usually drives the Grand Prix Legends series, that's where I know him best from, but he's also dabbled with the 79 for a long time, and he is one with a great car control, so if anyone's going to be able to handle this situation, it's going to be him.
Indeed, always a good one to see out there. We continue to check back in on a battle there, as I believe we've had another retirement come in. This is Valero, I believe, coming. This is through that 4-5 complex. Oh, just gets offline, sends the car around, big smack into the wall. That's exactly what happens. Let's take another look at this here. Let's ride on board.
So you can see him coming into the corner. He's in a battle for position, coming from the outside, just trying to brake late and listening. Yep, lost the grip on the braking, and then found out that the wall extends further than you think. And you know, mirrors in objects in a mirror may be closer than they appear, and walls next to the track may be closer than they appear. So here we see on board with Severi Seppa, currently in 5th place. He is in that bit of a Finnish train right now. Mikko Leino in 4th place, then you got Seppa in 5th place, Pauli Partanen in 6th, and in 7th Jukka Tolonen as well. There's a lapped car between them, that would be Aikotos in the Sklendo, but we don't have to worry about him too much right now. And here is Millward in 8th place. He's chasing down Tolonen. Mind you, he had suspension damage in qualifying, so it was something that he had to fight off, but he's been making a good charge early on, able to get a couple of positions, and is looking at that 7th place. And when you talk about cars in Detroit, you see that big train ahead of them as well, led by Gernot Fritsch right now actually, and you have a very realistic chance of Millward getting into the top 5 in this race, yes.
Yeah, you certainly do, but he does. Whoa, as that was a big slide there for Jukka Tolonen, coming through 12 and 13, doing his best drifting impression, and Millward recognized that opportunity. He's going to try to pounce, thought about going down into turn 1, but he's going to hold back a little bit, see if he can maybe take full advantage of the long straightaway here, and I think he may be a little far back, but he's going to think about it. Let's go back and check out this replay. Ozzy riding on board with Tolonen.
Yep, and it's gonna happen so quickly. Bit of a slide there, and that was so close to the wall. It may not look so impressive from there, but that was so close to the wall. He was, if there was a fly on the wall, that would be an X-fly right now.
Very much so, and oh, Alex Millward just did his best Jukka Tolonen impression coming out of turn 6, getting very sideways. That's going to present an opportunity for Ove Trangrade. And Trangrade's going to try to dive down to the inside, but Millward later on the brakes and is able to hold him off. He runs a little bit wide going down into turn 7, but the pressure is still on. This is a great battle we're seeing, but that mistake there coming out of turn 6 has allowed for Trangrade to catch in a little bit on Alex Millward, gave a little bit of breathing room to Jukka Tolonen. I think we have also had, it looks like, another retirement as Miguel Moreland has found the wall, but let's keep our eyes focused here. Another good run for Alex Millward. Is he going to try to make a move here? Goes to what will be the outside of turn 1. He's alongside, tries to go later on the brakes. That'll switch back to him. He's going to have the advantage, pushes out a little bit on Tolonen and gets the position. And now Ove Trangrade wants some.
Yep, and he's going to the inside, but Tolonen has that draft from Milward. It was a great choice to stick behind Milward, but here comes Uwe to the inside. Not quite able to pull it off. Tolonen using all of the track and then some to at least keep his consolation prize, the 8th position. But what a pass from Alex Milward. I think Tolonen was trying to like squeeze him a little bit to the inside in number 2. Saw him pretty much alongside him, trying to squeeze him. And Milward, he was having absolutely none of it. It was elbows out. I'm coming through. Thank you. Bye-bye. And next up, Pauli Partanen. And can we jump on? Yeah, here we go. We are actually on that picture. Very good job from our director. Because Gernot Fritzsche, he's lost a lot of time. He's lost 2.5 seconds to Michael Deter. And he's now holding up a train of Finns, pretty much. You got Mikko Leino behind him, you got Severi Seppä, and you got Pauli Partanen as well. You got 3 Finns, and then you got the sole Austrian, who has more championships than he has fingers. And I tell you what, he has the normal amount of fingers, so that's a lot of championships.
It certainly is, as we watch here, Fritzsche trying to hold off that run. Deter looking like he's got a pretty good, or Lino rather, looking like he had a pretty good run coming down there, but not enough to close it. They start to Constantina as they go down into turn 3 off of Central Avenue. Looking a little bit like Partanen, or Seppä rather, is gaining in a little bit here. Yeah, I agree with you on that. We ride on board with Severi Seppä here. That is Lino and Fritzsche ahead of him. It really kind of looks like that Fritzsche is holding up this pack. He's been running about 1/10 of a second slower than all of these cars behind.
Yep, and I'm not sure if it's just, you know, his car not handling pretty well when it comes to the higher tire pressures, because he was on a good pace earlier on, but I think his tire pressures may have been rising a little bit too high, and you want to run lower tire pressures here, because it's a street circuit. It's gonna give you a little bit of extra suspension, so to speak, like a little bit of extra damping when your tire is softer. And that's why you run lower tire pressures in street circuits as well as in tracks like Sebring than you would at Monza, for example. That's a very drastic example, but that's what you're gonna do. And it's also gonna give you more mechanical grip in the slower corners. So maybe Gernot's overheated his tires, maybe he's running too high tire pressures. Either way, it seems that people behind him are starting to catch up onto him as the race proceeds, and here we have a lap car, and that's going to give an opportunity to Mikko Leino, who squeezes in through the gap, and Uwe Trengeride meanwhile crashes, and Uwe Trengeride is upside down in turn number 2, and he is out of this race, and meanwhile Mikko is in 3rd place.
Yes, he did. Let's keep an eye here. This is him trying to overtake Partanen there, putting the pressure on. I think that was a little bit of aero wash. That is one of those faster sweeper corners. Just got onto the wall and got up and over it. Let's also jump back and check out that pass that Mikko Leino was able to do going down into turn 3.
Yeah, we're gonna see a replay of it soon, and it's gonna be worth a replay. I was watching it from the window of the commentary booth, and here we go. And DJ, I want you to react to this live, actually, because there's a lap car, and then there's gonna be some poetry in motion. Not Jeff Hardy.
No, exactly. You can see here Lino sees that lap car, gets into the draft, uses that, and splits the difference in between him and Fritzsche, almost banging wheels as they go down into the braking zone. That is absolute commitment from Mikko Leino, and that is how you have to make moves around a street circuit like this. It is full send if you're going to go for it. Kudos to Mikko Leino in a well-deserved place, bumping his way up into the podium positions.
Yeah, and that's such a difficult thing to do because it requires so much foresight and it requires so much experience in being able to identify that there is going to be an opportunity. And Leino did an absolutely fantastic job of that. He saw the lap car, he kind of knew that, okay, Gernot's gonna go to the left, and most likely Gernot's gonna follow the racing line. And then Leino was like, okay, there might be a room in the middle because the lap car is most likely not going to like take the middle of the track, squeeze it. And so he was just pretty much banking on Gernot leaving enough room and banking on the lap car not panicking and suddenly turning left or making any moves. So he was banking on a lot in the abilities of his two drivers, and then just going to the middle and absolutely committing. Oh, and Karjalainen! I'm sorry, Karjalainen has spun and he is out of this race.
Oh my goodness gracious. Let's go back and check out this replay. Karjalainen falling ill. That is coming out of turn 11 right there. Keeping an eye on the yellow machine. All right, diving down into 12. Oh, just carrying a little bit too much speed. You can see those brakes locking a little bit as he tries to get down into the corner.
So, sorry to interrupt you there. Listening right now, you're gonna hear it as he comes into the braking zone. Yep, locking up there and just raves dropping, and there's absolutely nothing you can do at that point. It's Timo. He was such a good driver this year in the domestic series, and he was so consistent and so steady, and now he's leading the race, and I think the pressure just got to him. And he had no risk either. He had a 3.5 second lead, and he just threw it away. Goes to show you how difficult this is.
It certainly is. Detroit, very similar to one of the newer street circuits that has been added, Long Beach. It's one of those things that the walls will just catch you out if you are not able. Ozzy, it's one of the reasons I love coming to street circuits like this, is that you have to be on your game the entire race distance. There is no margin for error, and even someone as experienced as Timo can be caught out like that.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with a lot of circuits, but in some places you have time to relax. Like, you can relax a little bit, you can ease out. There is nothing that can catch you out, but with these cars on this circuit, there is something that will catch you out each and every lap. It's those bumps, and it only takes one mistake, like little laps of concentration, maybe getting caught up in hot lapping mode. That's what can happen also so easily. When you're in the lead, you're not looking at the gap behind, or you're looking at the gap behind and seeing it increase, and maybe trying to manage it a little bit, maybe trying to break the spine of Michael de Turk in that case, and just going for that one or two fast laps, which can then you can manage the gap. You can break his spine and you can manage the gap. You know that you won the race, essentially. You're trying to go for a fast lap, pushing a little bit too hard, and it doesn't have to be braking too late, by too much, essentially. It looks like he was braking like 20 meters too late, easily to a viewer, but it can be just 5 meters too late, like a couple of yards too late. And what was the right braking zone, getting the right amount of trail braking into those corners, can suddenly turn into the brakes locking up, and as those brakes lock up, in a street circuit, there's absolutely nada you can do. Not even the best driver in the world is gonna save that from going to the wall. So it's you're turning from a driver to a passenger in a very quick fashion, and we've seen it happen in street circuits before, both in sim racing and in real life.
For sure. As you saw it there, we checked in briefly on that Philip Lake and Yuka Tolonen battle. There's some incredible side-by-side going in. We jump back up to the front here, riding on board. This is that same three-car battle we've had our eyes on. Millward, Seppa, and Partanen. They just seem to be locked at the hip, all staying about under a half a second within one another. Seppa doing a good job to manage the pressure both ahead and behind. Millward, though, looking like he's got a little bit of a run here. Oh, runs a little bit wide coming out of turn 6. That's not going to help his blast down this back straightaway. It's going to give a little bit of breathing room to Severi Seppa here. Be able to try to focus his eyes up ahead on Partanen and see if he can maybe move up into 4th. Partanen, in turn, keeping very close to Gernot Frische. We had said that Frische was losing a lot of, touch with de Turk. He's also lost touch a little bit with, or had lost a little bit touch with Lino. He's able to claw a couple tenths back here, and so that battle continuing to rage as well.
Yeah, let's see if it's Mikko Leino getting faster or Gernot Frische getting slower. Last time around, Mikko Leino 119.4, so he was able to claw 3 tenths out of his lap time, and that's around the same pace as our race leader, Michael de Turk. So Leino definitely finding pace as we are around the halfway point of this race. Here you can see the lap time comparison on the screen as well. Mikko Leino 19.8. 20.0, 19.9, 19.7, and then suddenly 19.4. He's starting to be happy with his car, and he's starting to take more risk as well. You can see how close he is getting to those walls, and he wants to get away from Gernot as soon as possible, and he wants to get after Michael de Turk. He probably saw the car of Timo Karjalainen alongside the track earlier on. He knows that there is still a chance. he knows that there is a chance that he could be a race winner, and he's absolutely going to take that opportunity. And behind him, Gernot is just hounding him. You can see Gernot absolutely not giving up. I don't think he's happy with his car. Gernot doesn't look happy with his car to me, DJ, but he's absolutely hounding Leino with all his experience and all his skill and all that racecraft he has. He's still very, very close behind, and a big slide. Wow, that just goes to show you how hard he's having to try.
Oh, and Millward into the wall as well, but let's check out that massive drift from Gernot Frische. Just absolutely getting wide. This turn 12 catching a lot of drivers out. This is the same problem that we saw. We have seen that corner catch out so many people. That's where Karilainen lost it. And there you can see Millward just coming through turn 13, losing the rear end, smacking hard into that wall. Those last two corners, Ozzy, just being the bane of a lot of drivers' existence today.
Yeah, and Millward made the mistake in that very same corner as Gernot got sideways, but Millward got a little bit too fast on the exit, so he just ended up hitting the wall and throwing his race away, which is a shame. He's still going, mind you, in 7th place, but that car is a toast. It's an absolute toast. Meanwhile, in the battle for the 3rd place, Partanen got past Gernot as a result of that mistake, so you now have Severi Seppä behind Gernot Frische and Pauli Partanen suddenly finding himself in 3rd place, and that would be a great result for Pauli Partanen, but still, he still needs to keep it on his toes as well. You can see those cars starting to live as they get lighter, and it's very, very difficult to set up a car in a way that it stays balanced for all of these 33 laps, about 40 minutes, 45 minutes of this race distance. You got ways to do that, you got ways to adjust the car in the middle of the race with the anti-roll bars and the sway bars, as some people may call it, but usually it's just a matter of essentially identifying when the car is getting loose, making the necessary adjustments, and also hoping that it doesn't snap out on you at the wrong position. It's so terrifying, frankly, racing on a straight circuit.
Yeah, it really, really is. And this car, more than most, very, very susceptible to the change in weight like you talked about. As it gets lighter, it gets a lot twitchier. And you just have to know how it handles. The one advantage of that I will say is if you get the car set up just right, yes, it will be twitchier, but you will be able to follow a little bit easier. You won't have nearly as much of effect of that aero wash as Tolan in here, taking advantage of the slightly crippled Alex Millward going down. Oh, Millward fighting back. They're going to be side-by-side going down into the fountain section. He's going to try to hold it out, is Tolan. And oh, is that contact between the two as they continue to scrap this out. That's Millward going very wide, tries to get it in a very aggressive move to hold it out. Oh my goodness, that car may be a little damaged for Alex Millward, but he is not losing any of that fighting spirit.
No, he's not, and I think Alex Millward is one of those people. He's like a Saiyan in that the more time he dies, the stronger he gets, or the closer he comes to death, the closer he gets, the stronger he gets. Sorry, I've got that all messed up, as is Alex's car, but he's very aggressive right now. He doesn't want to lose any more positions. He has worked so hard to gain all of them, and now he doesn't want to lose any of them, but Tolonen has that advantage on a straight line, looking to the outside, and Alex, he's gonna still brake late on the inside. Is he gonna slide wide? Yes, he is, but Tolonen able to keep it round the outside. They come together once again on the exit of the corner, come closer, but Tolonen just not able to pull it off. Alex is fighting so hard for his position, and why not? They got Suarez behind them, but he's seconds away, and Tolonen making a mistake, heading onto the back straight in turn number 6, and that's gonna cost him some time. So Millward, he's gonna have to be an absolute stalwart of defense. He's gonna be a Manny Pacquiao of defense if he's gonna be able to keep this position, but he's certainly trying.
Yes, he is, and I've got to say, I admire that. I think he recognizes the level of attrition out here in this race, and even though his car is damaged slightly, he wants to keep it out as much as possible. Oh, we've had a problem for De Turk, I believe.
Oh no. Oh no. This is Monaco 1982 all over again.
It is indeed. Let's go check out this replay. Now, this is coming through that fountain section. Damaged car in front of him. That's lap traffic that he just got caught up into. Damaged the front wing. You can see the damage on the left front. Let's ride on board with your former leader. You can see this lapped car having some problems up ahead through turn 8. Catches the wall. He tries to get out of it, and big whap to that left front. And I think he just decided to park it after this, recognizing that damage was going to really affect his race.
Yep, and the Turk, that was Robert Plumley. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but that was Robert Plumley, who is very familiar with this community. And I assure you, that was very unlike Robert to make a mistake like that. And then Michael de Turk trying to stay ahead of Mikko Leino with his damaged car and throwing it into the wall again. And that now means that Mikko Leino is leading this race with Pauli Partanen in second and Gernot Fritzsche rounding out your top 3 ahead of Severi Seppä. So I don't want to... Okay, I'm just gonna put this out there right now. I'm not wishing ill on anything because Gernot's a lovely guy, he's a great friend, and he's an absolute cornerstone of this community. But if something would happen to Gernot, we would have a finish 1, 2, 3.
We've got a little bit of an incident here, though, for Alex Millward. Oh, getting into Jukka Tollin and coming through the fountain section. That was that stout defense that we had kept an eye on for most of the race. Just a little bit of contact, sending him around. So that is going to end Alex Millward's day. Little bit of a shame for that, as we love keeping an eye on that defense. Riding on board now, though, with Pauli Partanen as he tries to track down our leader, Mikko Leino. That throw a blanket over these top 3, though, Ozzy, as they're only separated by about 1.6 seconds. Only 2.6 separating the top 4 right now. So the battle for the lead, despite all of the attrition we've had today, still very close.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle of survival and a race of attrition, really, at this point. Mikko Leino, Pauli Partanen, they are so close in the lead, and I think you can just see drivers taking it a little bit more carefully now. You can see them maybe not attacking those corners so hard. They're just slowing down never so slightly, even though the lap times are still good, mind you. But they're slowing down never so slightly because they saw, okay, Timo Karjalainen made a mistake, he's out of it. And then they saw the Turk getting caught out by Plumley. And they realized the position they find themselves in, and they realize that they need to keep it on the track for 10 more laps, as Pauli Partanen now puts in the fastest lap of this race.
Yeah, Partanen really starting to push here. I think he can smell that top position as they work their way forward. Little bit of a catch there as they come around through this section, working their way onto the backstretch right now. There's going to be some lap traffic ahead of them. Partanen able to only be about 1/10 of a second faster on that last lap than Mikko up ahead of him, but he's definitely getting advantage of the draft here down the backstretch.
Yeah, and oh, Leino's in the wall! Leino's in the wall from the lead! Oh no! He lost the lead, he threw it away, and he hit Gernot Fritzsche too, and Fritzsche's in the wall outside of your pictures as well. And with the car damage, here we see coming into turn number 7, and he's braking it too late. He broke too late, and he lost the back end on the braking. That's exactly the same as Timo Karjalainen did. And then he's gonna hit Gernot in the next corner because his car is gonna understeer. And I think Gernot thought that he was gonna get easily by, and it's such a narrow point. It was just a little bit clumsy after that. And you can see it on board Gernot here as well. And here we can see just Gernot looking in the corner and just getting basically crashed into the wall. That's a racing incident. I mean, I know that he went a little bit wide, but that's a racing incident because Gernot thought that maybe he's gonna get the position a little bit more easily, but there was also no room to give. And when you go side by side into a corner after trying to recover from an accident, that can happen so easily. So now it's Partanen in the lead, Seppä second, Leino third, Gernot fourth, and the 5th place guy is Jukka Tolonen, and he is suddenly 12 seconds away from the lead. Everything's happening. That lead position is cursed.
It is. No one able to hold it out. Partsinen here hoping that he can hold this out with a 3.4-second advantage as of now. Lino doing his best to hold into Severi Seppa with that damaged car, as well as Gernot. I have to say, Tolanen, though, may smell a little blood in the water and be able to move up forward with all the damage to the cars in front of him. This is a good job for Lino. And yeah, as you said, Ozzy, very much with that car, he just tried to go in a little bit, and Gernot gave him room, and that car just understeered just enough to make that contact happen between the two. Whew, Tolanen playing a little fast and loose there with the corner exit. You can see the bumps unsettling that number 11. He's really starting to gain a lot of time on Gernot Frischa ahead. I think Tolanen is certainly in with a shot here of moving his way up into 4th place. Maybe even a podium if he is lucky. Yes, it's just over 6 seconds right now, but he is definitely closing, as he has the rare distinction of having an undamaged car right now.
Yeah, mostly undamaged at least. He had a bit of contact with Milward earlier on that may have caused something. And here we see the lap car of Keith Turner getting out of the way. He was 1.1 seconds faster than Gernot Frischa last time by. Gernot had that incident, of course, but Gernot is still having to fight that car. So, Jukka, no! Oh no! Jukka, why did you throw it away like that? 270 degrees, at least make it a 360. Come on! No, 270, and he has to just collect out of that, and he lost all the time he gained. But kudos for him to trying, and guess what? He braked too late into the corner.
Yep, just carried a little bit too much speed there coming through turn 6. The bumps unsettling the car. I'm used to seeing that a little bit more on the exit of turn 11, but very easy to do there on turn 6 as well. So that's going to really disperse that gap a little bit. The gap now between Tolanen and Frischa holding at about 13.5 seconds. So that'll buy him a lot of breathing room, will Gernot Frischa. And so the leaders now have started to separate a little bit courtesy of all of these incidents. We ride on board with Gernot Frischa right now. He's got about 1.3 seconds up the road to Lino. He's going to try to close that in. Both cars having some rear wing damage, but looking at it just cosmetically, it does look like Frischa has caught the worst of it, but he is running a little bit faster than his competitor in front of him.
Yeah, and Frischa has also more experience with this car, so he knows how to handle damage. He's been there before, so that might be playing an effect, whereas Leno is taking it a little bit more carefully. He can't quite feel the car comfortably underneath him, but we have to also remember that you can't necessarily see all of the damage that these drivers are having. There might be varying levels of underbody damage that they're suffering from, like Leno having that hard hit with the wall, and he's been using the curbs very actively, so maybe he has more underbody damage, and that's what's allowing Gernot to have just a little bit more grip in the corners and allowing him to catch up ever so slowly. And we still have 8 laps to go in this race, and as we've seen earlier on, anything can happen. And if I was leading this race, if I was Pauli Partanen in the lead of this race right now, I think I would want to go for some services of a higher tier, of a more spiritual tier, in order to keep me away from all the trouble, because I'm convinced that leading position is cursed. It just has to be.
It is indeed, but there you see Gernot Frischa making his way around Lino right there. He is able to get his way back into the podium spots, courtesy of a nice draft going down into turn 3. Just a pretty simple draft overtake there for Gernot. A great job to move himself back into the podium positions. A little bit of a recovery drive, obviously. He has about 5.2 seconds to try to catch up to Severi Seppa, so that may be a little unattainable right now with as much time as we have left here in this race, but still a good job for Gernot, recovering as he could. Being very careful here through that fountain section. Doesn't want to throw anything away here.
No, not at all, but this is what champions do, and this is what Gernot Frischa does. He is able to fight adversity, and he is able to make the most out of a bad situation. What you need to win championships are hard work, determination, and experience. And pace comes forward. Like, the pace is maybe the fourth most important thing. What you need is all those three at first. You have to maximize each and every race result, especially when you're not the fastest guy. Because it's kind of easy. When you're the fastest guy, when you can find the flow of the track. I've been in that situation, don't like to brag, but I've been there, being the fastest guy of the week. You just qualify in the pole position, nail the qualifying lap, and then run away. That's easy. You don't, well, it's not obviously easy, otherwise everybody would do it, but it's easier than being the fifth or sixth fastest guy in a week, for example, or even the third fastest guy, where you just have to you're struggling with yourself a little bit. You're not finding yourself in that position where you're familiar with, comfortable with, and then you're kind of struggling with guys you usually are running rings around. So you're struggling, you're wondering what's wrong with myself. Is it the setup? You start doubting yourself. You start making these unnecessary adjustments. It's a lot of mental game as well. And then when it comes to race conditions, you're not finding your race pace to be wide where you're used to seeing it being, and it's a race of attrition, and you get damage out of no fault of your own. All of those things can add up. It can add up into a situation where you can either handle it like Alex Milward does, which is, this is not a knock on Alex Milward, it's just his way of handling adversity is to try even harder, and that usually ends up with his car in the wall. Whereas the Gernot Fritsch way of handling adversity is to take it a little bit slower, take it steady, and allow your mind to recoup and recuperate. Take a breath and then see, okay, look, what's the best I can attain from this race? What's my best case scenario, and what are the steps I need to take in order to achieve that? And that's why he has more championships than I got fingers. I said it already once, I'm gonna say it twice.
No, that's exactly the way to think about it, especially in these Lotuses. You've got to be so careful with driving them. Make sure you know you're not over-driving the car. It is one of the biggest faults that you can have. We check in, though, on our leader, Paulie Partanen, who has done an incredible job here of just working his way up through the field, taking advantage of others' misfortune. He's up 6 positions. He started this race off in 7th. And able to work his way forward. Also, some big movers we've had over the course of this race, courtesy of the attrition that we've seen. Multiple drivers up double digits, including Suarez up 10, Coriani up 11, Herner up 11, Tackenberry is up 11 as well, Justice up 16, Massa up 18, and Lopez, our biggest mover of the race, he's up 19 positions. Although, as our fellow GSRC commentator would say, don't believe Lopez put in a qualifying time, so we're not going to be able to give that award out for the biggest mover of the race to Lopez, but an impressive drive to keep things together here nonetheless.
Yeah, man, he should be a U-Haul driver with that kind of moving ability.
All right, you're going to have to put a penny in the pun jar for that one, Ozzy. As we ride on board here with Paulie Partanen, the Finn making his way around the fountain section. He'll be coming to the line here with 3 to go. And you can see as that car gets lighter and lighter just how much he is having to put the inputs in, making very small, like we like to call micro adjustments. That's kind of how you have to drive this car, especially as the fuel loads burn off. You want to be as super smooth as possible. That's the fastest way around as normal. But when this car gets light on fuel, it gets twitchy. And there you see Partanen, just for good measure, setting the fastest lap of the race.
Look at the confidence he's having right now. 18.7, that's what Gernot used to do. And that's what a lot of drivers actually do in this series. Which is something I found early on when I was starting to drive this series back in 2016. Is that back then already, you saw a lot of drivers, even the leading drivers. Gernot was back then one of the leading drivers. Then you had Tapani Linnaluoto, for example, who taught me to drive this car. A couple of other guys from back then, Kalle Ruokola, names for the old followers, you know, who used to drive in this series back then. And they used to, even if they were leading, they used to battle for the fastest lap of the race in the last couple of laps. And it's pure racing, and I love it. And for me, I've been known as a bit of a reckless driver at times, but even for me, that's an alien concept of where I would be in the lead. I would be like, okay, let's take it steady, let's win this race. These guys would be like, how fast can I hold this thing? I want to really claim my victory, and I love it, and I'm absolutely here for it. Pauli Partanen, another thing I want to say about him. I remember when he kind of started out, he was in the mid-pack, promoted from the second split usually, and when he's been on the top split in the broadcast, he's been kind of mid-packing earlier on, then he's been steadily rising to battle for the top 10s, sometimes being able to achieve top 5s, and now he's about to win here in Detroit. But I know it's been a race of attrition. We got 7 drivers on the lead lap, we got 11 drivers who are within 1 lap of the lead lap. We've seen drivers essentially carving their way through the pack by just keeping it between the walls. But Pauli Partanen, he's been on an absolutely spectacular form today.
Yeah, he really has. We haven't really seen that 13 machine put a wheel wrong just yet. Knock on all kinds of wood. Gonna jump back here to P7 though. This is Andrew Thomas fighting a little bit of damage. This will be a great result here for the UKNI driver. Team makes his way down through those final 2 corners, able to keep everything nice and in a line, not taking a super aggressive line there. You can tell, I think he is definitely just trying to manage here as much as possible. Definitely farther down in the order in terms of iRating here is Andrew Thomas. He's only got a 1.9K iRating, so this will definitely boost him up the charts when it comes to that standing. We're very happy to pick up a good top 10 here.
Indeed so, and that's one of those things where you really gain confidence from. You have that top 10 in your repertoire, you have that ability to finish in the top 10, and you look at the result and you can see, this is nice, I finished in the top 10, I got these gains. What can I do to make it more consistent? What can I do to eventually find myself in this position in a race that is a little bit more normal, let's put it that way. But a lot of these drivers that started out from the back, they've been able to avoid problems. We look at them and we see their R rating and we maybe dismiss them. I know I used to dismiss a lot of these drivers with sub 1000 R rating. I was like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that guy. And they might finish ahead of me just because I crashed out and they didn't. And that's the only thing that counts, is your end result. Everything that happens in between is pure semantics. But ultimately, that's where you make the result as well. You're able to keep it in the track. Your lap times might not be the fastest, but they're not tragic either. But these guys are not putting in tragic lap times. They're putting in half-decent lap times. Even if they might be like 3 seconds off the lead, but that's not too much.
Jumping back up to the front here, Severi Seppa put in the fast lap. The race starting to close things down a little bit, as it were. But we are getting ready, I believe, to take the white flag here, as that is...
They finished.
Oh my goodness gracious, I apologize to Pauli Partanen. That is the finish. A great result for Pauli Partanen to be able to take that in. Severi Seppa coming home second, and Gernot Friesche managing all of that damage that we had talked about to come home in P3.
I'm gonna gather myself, sorry. It happens so easily. But yeah, I think that was the perfect finish to this kind of race. It was exactly the kind of finish that these shenanigans deserve. And, you know, seeing a Finn on top, it was the perfect finish as well. Pauli Partanen being the perfect Finn out there today and finishing ahead of Severi Seppa and Gernot Friesche. But man, what a race we saw.
What a race indeed. Lots of attrition, lots of favorites out here falling by the wayside. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here on GSRC, but don't go anywhere because we will be back with the very crazy finishing order as well as interviews with your top finishers here today.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Detroit Belle Isle. Today we saw an absolute race of attrition out of the Classic Team Lotus 79 series, but it was one that was won by Paulie Partonen, who was able to come home on the top step of the podium, keeping that car clean. Behind him and rounding out your podium was Severi Seppa and multiple champion Gernot Frischa, with Mika Lino able to nurse his car home in P4. Jukka Tolinen was fifth, with Pablo Suarez in sixth, and Andrew Thomas, the last car on the lead lap. That's right, only 7 cars on the lead lap here today. Cristiano Carani was eighth, followed by Keith Herner, and John Tackaberry rounded out your top 10.
Yep, and then it's Joshua Justice with the most awesome name in the field, finishing 11th, 1 lap down. Then we got drivers 2 laps down, Eugenio Massa, Francisco Javier Lopez. Then we got Steven Orl and Aitor Sintes Galindo. Then we get to the list of the retired drivers. And as typical with a street race, with 32 drivers in it, it's gonna be a long list. So let's go. Let's get it out there right now. Ibret and Michael Steiner, Sebastian Morin, Philip Blake, Alex Milward, Michael de Turk, Robert Plumley, Robert Simpkins, Timo Karjalainen, Uwe Trengeride, Timothy Reed, Miguel Moreland, Barry West, Thomas Delwood, Borja Valero, Eetu Vainiokangas, Bill Cross, and Loic Barbet, rounding out the 32 driver field, DJ.
Yeah, an absolute mega list of a lot of stars in this series that didn't finish, but the one driver who did finish and finished where it mattered, Paulie Partonen. A win here today on such a tricky circuit where so many guys found the wall. You've got to feel good about this one.
Yeah, this was my first win ever, so I feel very, very good right now. And I made some very crucial overtakes of Ove and Severi, so they were the key points of this race for really. And of course, quite many good drivers took themselves out, so I was a bit lucky also.
Well, I did want to ask you in terms of those overtakes. I mean, what was your mentality coming into this as you went along? I mean, were you really hunting for those overtakes, or was it much more of a wait and see, sort of let the race come to you approach?
Yeah, well, there was some tiny mistakes with the guys in front of me, and I just thought that, okay, this is my chance. This is my only chance, because this track is very hard to overtake. So if there's just one mistake, you just have to take it. And I was lucky. I was able to overtake those both guys, and yeah, I feel good.
Well, good. We're glad to hear it, and I believe we have one of your countrymen here, Ozzy, who wants to ask away. Ozzy?
Pauli, onnittelut oikein paljon voitosta. Congratulations for the victory. Couple of words in Finnish. Pari sanaa suomeksi tähän loppuun vielä. Terveisiä, kiitoksia, kuulumisia ja muuta.
Joo, ihan helvetin hyvä fiilis kyllä nyt tällä hetkellä, ja kiitos tosi paljon Severille setupista, että ilman sitä ei kyllä varmaan voittoa edes tullutkaan, ja muutenkin tosi paljon kiitoksia kaikille, jotka on jeesannut meikäläistä, Tetöjök on jeesannut ja Tamas Simon on auttanut mua aika paljon, niin kiitoksia heille, ja eiköhän seuraavaankin saa valita uusi voitto. Noniin, oikein paljon onnittelua voitosta. Kiitos. Kiitos.
So Pauli here thanking Severi for a lot of the setup help, and thanking Massimo as well for all the help he's received, and just very happy to receive his first victory, essentially. I think that sums it up pretty well, DJ.
It does indeed. A great run there from Paulie. Now we're going to ask a couple questions here to our third place finisher, Gernot Friesche. Gernot, obviously that incident there with Mika Leino slowing you down a little bit, but still a podium here today. How you feeling walking away from the car?
I'm sweating. I don't know if I should be laughing or crying. First, I have to say hello to Ossian. Very nice to have him back in the booth. It's been a crazy race. For me, it was quite an important race for the championship, so I didn't want to take too much of a risk. And so, yeah, there was some crazy driving going on. So, yeah, the result is good. My opponents, or most of my opponents, did worse than me, so that's the good side. On the other hand, yeah, I could have done better, and the car after that crash was horrible to drive.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you just, how were you managing there? It looked like that rear wing was in a whole world of trouble. How were you having to manage anything in particular that you were having to do, or was it just sort of hold on for dear life?
Yeah, there was not much that I could do. The car got really loose in the fast corners, so especially the last corner was a nightmare because the rear suddenly stepped away, and it's so hard to catch the car there because it's so bumpy. And if you just have a minor slide, usually you end up in the wall. So yeah, it was really tricky to drive in the end.
Well, I'd say a podium's pretty good out of it. And Ozzy, I think you've got a question here for Gernot as well.
Yeah, Gernot, very, very nice to see you too as well. It's been a long time. I just must ask, since you are back here, well, I guess you never really left, but since you are back in a championship form, which is great to see, in your opinion, as a multi-time champion, what was the most difficult and demanding thing about this race? If you had to pinpoint one or two things why so many people crashed out today?
This track is so bumpy, and every minor mistake can end up in the wall, and basically if you touch the wall, your race is over. For me, it was especially difficult because while I had some good pace, I was in a difficult situation because I needed to finish this race in a good position, so I tried to be safe as well. And I saw that other guys were really going for it, so that made it worse for me because I tried to survive.
Okay, thank you, Gernot. And if you have any last greetings, either auf Deutsch or in English, glad to hear them. Congratulations for a great podium.
Thanks, Ossian. I gotta say thank you to Nicola Cocchi for being my only fan today and cheering for me. So yeah, greetings to him. Thanks to you guys. Bye-bye.
Well, that was your winner and third place finisher here today, and that's going to wrap it up for us here on the Global Sim Racing Channel and our coverage of the Sunday Grand Prix Series. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. They should be listed here on your screen. An additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Ozzy, Ryan, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can check it out at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media listed through the outlets on the bottom of your screen there. If you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. The link is in the description below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Our next race for the Sunday Grand Prix Series will be at Oulton Park next Sunday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have some upcoming races listed here on your screen, including later today at 8 o'clock Eastern. The Americas region heads to Darlington. You're not going to want to miss that. It is sure to be a great race indeed. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.